make a film about a man who's sad and lonely, and all they gotta do is act naturally. Well, I'll bet you I'm gonna be a big star. Might win an Oscar, you can never tell. The movie's gonna make me a big star.
Welcome to Meet Me in the Movies. I am Noel T. Manning II. See, right there, I said my name right, which is a good thing because normally I say things all wrong, and that's going to lead us to non-viewer mail in a minute. But before that, we're going to introduce Catherine Manning, the Critics' Choice Scholar. Catherine, over there to my right. How are you, ma'am?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good.
You said your name right, so you're doing okay.
I said my name right, so I'm okay so far.
Did you get her name right?
I got her name right. So that's good. That's really good. So welcome, Catherine. Glad to have you back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Christian is on assignment doing something.
Yeah, right.
We don't know what.
It's a nice day.
It's a nice day. He did say that he had a movie to review, Rampage, and he actually texted me the review. So we'll share that with you a little bit later. It's going to be quick. So there you go. Over there beside camera one, that is Captain Kangaroo, everyone. Captain Kangaroo.
Whose real name is? She doesn't have a clue.
I don't know his real name.
Bob Keeshan.
Yeah, that's it, Bob Keeshan.
I know all this useless stuff that does me no good in life.
Yeah, Captain Kangaroo was a great kid's show.
I can't balance my checkbook, but I know stuff like that.
Well, I used to watch that show. I loved it.
Yeah.
He
and
always
Mr. Moose.
Mr. Moose, yeah. A lot of other names which don't say them because you may be hearing some come your way before too long. But I love the show.
What? Okay.
Yeah, I love the show. It was a
great
fun kid show. I actually watched that more than Sesame Street.
Yeah, I maybe did too.
Yeah.
I love Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
I think he's an American saint.
Well, and we're going to have a movie on Mr. Rogers also coming up with Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and there's a documentary I saw a preview for a few days ago. Documentary on Mr. Rogers.
I'm going to check that out.
A lot of behind-the-scenes footage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll check that out. That's Greg Tillman over there. It's not Captain Kangaroo. It's Greg Tillman.
You fooled them all there.
Fooled them all. I did. Welcome. We appreciate you hanging out with us as we talk movies right here on Meet Me in the Movies, C19TV or WGWG.org for the podcast. But what did I do something wrong again?
No. Catherine just zoned out. She doesn't have a clue who Captain Kangaroo is, and she doesn't care. I looked over. She's just like,
I love it. That's the zoning out part. That happens quite often, doesn't it, Catherine?
Well, I'm a college student. It happens.
College student. That's right. A senior. Getting ready to be a graduating senior college student.
I'm tired.
That's right.
she's wishing she were with Christian right now.
Well, back behind Mission Control, we've got the Timster. That's right, Tim Foster and Miranda. Oh, yeah. Tim saw The Quiet Place.
He's been scarred by it.
He saw A Quiet Place. Dang it. He saw A Quiet Place.
You know, there were a lot of graphics on that last week with a bunch of A's all around
know.
your
I
head,
love
and you
that.
still didn't get
And
it.
I think that inspired.
Yeah, he saw that. He's been scarred by it since.
Yeah. So be quiet, because we don't want any of those freaks to come out and get you.
Well, one's already behind him.
And we got several of them. We got several of them right in here. Did you say one is behind him?
Yeah, I kind of did.
I love it.
Well, you know, someone asked me one time why he doesn't have a mic, and I said, "Are you kidding me?
He doesn't need
It's
a mic.
cable, I know, but
That's
really,
right. He doesn't need a mic.
don't want to push the
No,
boundaries."
he doesn't need a mic. Tim Foster back there, Miranda back there as well. They both saw a Quiet Place, and they both liked it. A Quiet Place. They loved it. Audiences are still loving this movie. It was not #1 last weekend, but it is the one that people are continuing to talk about. Worldwide, over $100 million for this movie.
On a $15 million budget or something like that?
$17 million budget. So
I finally saw it. Awesome.
Yeah, within 10 days, it's still pretty amazing. I've seen it twice. Christian's seen it 4 times.
Wow.
It's one that I will say it earns repeat viewings. So I would recommend, if you haven't seen it once, go see it, and then go back and look for some just pretty interesting Easter eggs that are kind of planted throughout that are worth catching, especially in newspaper articles and things that are hung around particular things. I would encourage you to go back and check it out a second time. So kudos for A Quiet Place, which I think is what inspired the non-viewer mail. Of course, I called it The Quiet Place, and if you remember back during award season, I was talking about the shape of the water. It's not the shape of the water, it's the shape of water.
You like the word "the," don't you?
I like the word "the." I do.
It's
I
a
do.
good word.
So the non-viewer mail, here it goes. Dear Mr. Noel, which I appreciate you calling me Mr. Noel. Thank you. I've noticed that you're having trouble understanding the difference between the grammar articles of the and a, such as a quiet place and the shape of water. You're right, correct. I am happy to provide guidance if you ever need additional help. In the meantime, a great place to start would be by checking out some of the award-winning Sesame Street videos from the soundtrack Born to Add, Great Rock and Roll from 1983. It offers some English language tips. I can't even say it. English language tips, as well as basic math. I'm sure that you can also find many of these lessons on YouTube. I do hope this helps. This comes to us from Dr. Spellman from Shelby.
So I was thinking of Dr. Lamb, maybe. Or your mom.
So yes, you are correct. I appreciate the non-viewer mail as well as viewer mail, and you can send either one of those to info@C19TV.
And it works. My mailbox was slammed with non-viewer mail this week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As
didn't
well
take
it
long
should
to
be.
go through it, though.
As well it should be.
Yeah.
So yeah, and have you ever seen that Sesame Street where they that particular album, Born to Add?
No, but the math lesson sounds really intriguing to me.
Well,
Yeah.
they would take
the whole balancing the checkbook.
Yeah.
thing we're
You
talking
need to do
about.
that. Well, they would take popular songs and they would rewrite them with lyrics that kind of fit Sesame Street. So Born to Run, of course, was from Born to Add. This Beatles song, Let It Be, letter B. Letter B comes after A, before C, letter B, letter B. So I
it
highly
was-
recommend checking that out.
It was kind of a Weird Al Yankovic Sesame Street edition.
Yeah, with education.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So highly recommend it. See, she knows Weird Al.
Well, she's your daughter.
Yeah,
That explains that.
This
Yeah.
is Weird Noel, so.
Yeah, you got something there. You got something there. So anyway, highly recommend checking out that album. There are a lot of videos related to that.
Road trip, going to the beach in a few weeks, going to Hilton Head.
Download it.
Yeah, I'm going to
Download it.
and
Well worth it. Well
hit
worth
the
it.
road, baby.
Well, let's dive into movie reviews. We're going to change things up a bit because we can. Greg Tillman likes to say he never watches movies. He likes to say,
I like movies. I just don't get to go very often.
Yeah, he likes to say, why am I here? Why do you have me here?
That
He
is
continues
true.
to say that. Well, the
But
reason he's here
it's not
today, he's the only one that's seen a new movie that's in theaters. Chappaquiddick, which is based on a true story.
True.
This is a film that has a Kennedy connection, and Catherine took a class on the Kennedys in college, so maybe she might have some things to chime in about, or maybe not. You don't.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. The movie is going to be showing. It is showing in Shelby starting this weekend.
Right.
Was released last week, and it's expanding a little bit. So let's get your thoughts on Chappaquiddick.
I was a weird kid. I watched the news like right after Captain Kangaroo went off, and I watched the Watergate hearings and things like that. And I remember when the Chappaquiddick incident happened. Ted Kennedy, who was mulling the idea of a presidential bid in '72 in the shadow of his brother Robert's death a year earlier. And it takes place a couple days before the anniversary of his death, also a couple of days before the moon landing, the Apollo 11 landing that his brother, initiated.
Right.
So he was in the shadow of two towering figures,
Right.
that happened to be his brothers.
Happened to be his brothers.
He was the last surviving male son of Joe Kennedy, and he was expected to assume the mantle and head for the presidency again. He was having a weekend outing with some of the staff members of RFK's presidential team from '68 when he and Mary Jo Kopechne basically ran off a bridge on Chappaquiddick Island, also off Martha's Vineyard, late one night. It was an accident. I think everyone realized that at the time. It seemed scandalous because you didn't know if there was extramarital activities going on. Apparently there wasn't. The film seems to make that pretty clear that it was just an accident. The tragedy of it all, obviously, was her loss of life. But for him, the way he handled the situation, it's a fascinating story. It's executed really well. The cast
And you remember the story?
I remember it.
Yeah.
I remember it. It starred Jason Clarke, who was in Zero Dark 30 and one of the Planet of the Apes movies.
Yeah.
Just terrific. I mean, just a dead ring. You forget you're watching an actor. He
Wow.
looks and sounds and conveys the whole Kennedy-esque air about him. Terrific performance. His father, Joe Kennedy, who pretty much ran the household, even though he'd suffered a stroke years earlier and could barely speak, was still orchestrating the redemption of Ted during that, how to shape the story with the media and how to salvage his reputation, his potential campaign, his political career. Bruce Dern played him.
Yeah, Dern is amazing.
Fantastic. And literally he had maybe 2 words he could convey due to the stroke. Ed Helms, there were a couple comedic presences there that surprised me. Jim Gaffigan was the Massachusetts Attorney General. And it wasn't a huge part. It wasn't a showy part. And he did fine in it.
Yeah.
But Ed Helms really shined. I didn't know I hadn't seen him do drama before.
Yeah.
Maybe he's done it, but he was terrific. He was sort of the conscience and the soul and kind of the moral compass of that story.
I think Helms is a great actor that doesn't get a lot of credit because he is known so much for his comedy.
Yeah.
And
The
he's so
Office
good at that.
and
And he's so good at that. And but yeah, he's got some talent. I think we'll be seeing more of him doing dramatic roles.
Right. Well, the film couldn't answer all the questions that arose from the incident, and I guess you couldn't.
Yeah.
It only 2 people really knew, and they're both dead now.
Yeah.
But it was fascinating. I thoroughly recommend it.
So you were fascinated by the story or the way it was presented, and the acting,
and the battle between Ted Kennedy's, I hate to say soul, but his conscience maybe.
Okay.
And originally he was stunned by the situation. First person he called was not the police, he called his father.
Yeah.
And his father over the phone said alibi. That's all he could say.
Wow.
Find an alibi. And so he tried to do that. And he was trying to protect himself. He ultimately, or at least the next day, realized he really should have just come clean with the whole thing.
Yeah.
Drafted an announcement to the media. Goes back to Hyannisport, where the Kennedy compound. And Joe has assembled all of Jack's old team, and they decided to shape the message and try to salvage it.
So
and
in
he
many
was
ways
between doing what was most people would think was right, but yet how to salvage his career. So it's an interesting story.
A history lesson, but also a lesson on what not to do when it's something like this occurs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What rating would you give this?
I'd give it a B+.
B+.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good deal. Well, my mom saw this and she did not like it.
Really?
So I'm going to find out maybe before now or next week what it was that did not click.
I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, I'm curious to know that as well. I'm sure that once we post this, she'll have some comments on it.
As an adult, she may have a different perspective from me as a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Watched it originally or remembered it.
Okay. Well, cool. Thanks. Chappaquiddick in theaters now. Well, a quick review before we go to a break. I want to tell you about a film. This is a Netflix original sci-fi thriller. It's called The Titan. And here's the story. Earth is dying, and scientists are trying to...
So it's a documentary?
No, believe me, this goes far worse than the documentary, but Earth is dying for a lot of different reasons. And scientists are trying to find a way for humankind to survive, and one of the ways they're going to find for humankind to survive is by living on another planet. But in order for that to happen, or another planet's moon, one of the moons of Saturn, and in order to do that, they've got to manipulate the DNA of humanity in order to survive in these different kinds of conditions. And so that's kind of the storyline, an interesting sci-fi take on Into the World. How are we going to deal with it? The film spends the first 55 minutes showing these human test subjects going through all of these medical experiments and also all the physical tests that they're putting them through. And there's this secluded military base, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But they allow all their families to come and stay with them on the military base while they're going through all of these tests. And to me, that was the first kind of red flag. I'm like, okay, you're experimenting with human DNA, and you've got your wife and kid with you, and you don't expect weird things to happen if you're still kind of staying in the same house with them. You're not, in this secluded bunkers. Things went wrong. Things definitely went wrong. Ultimately, I like the creative concept of it, but that wasn't enough. The effects weren't bad. The effects were okay as you're seeing these humans start to turn into something that's non-human. But the pacing of the story, the progression of the story was just really horrible. There wasn't a lot of character development that made me care anything about these characters. Even the 2 lead characters, which are husband and wife and a kid, if you're going to add the kid in it, you're supposed to feel something for them, but I never did. It just didn't matter to me in the end, and ultimately, I didn't care if this humanity survived or not. So, so there you go. This movie, I'm giving it a grade D, a D for the movie The Titan, a Netflix original just released, and just so you know, Rotten Tomatoes, 16%.
So this is another in a string of bad Netflix movies, right?
Yeah. But I mean, they had a decent cast, decent budget, but just fell well short.
It all starts with the script, right?
It does. It really does. It starts with the script. And I think if this had been a short film, I could see this in a short film festival working much better, but it just really kind of slogged on. So there you go. Stay away from The Titan. I know that Tim Foster's looking forward to that. You don't have to be quiet in this particular place. It's okay. You don't want to see it.
I've been tiptoeing around all week. I wish you'd never seen that.
Yeah, I know. We're going to take a break. We will come back with Catherine Manning giving us some home delivery advice, and also hopefully we'll be able to talk about Reese Witherspoon and some essential Reese Witherspoon. Also going to give you the review of Rampage in 5 quick nuggets right after this quick break on C19 TV's Meet Me at the Movies.
Now some say that screaming 1 + 1 all night means we're thoughtless, cruel, and bad. But kids like you and me, baby, we were born to add. Yes, girl, we were. As we keep on wandering, we see 2 trash cans, so we add 1 and make it 3.
Chef Paul Prudhomme once said, "You don't need a silver fork to eat good food." Well, on Cleveland County Kitchen, we don't have a silver fork, but we sure do serve up lots of good food. Hi, I'm Deborah Blanton. I hope you'll join me for the next Cleveland County Kitchen. Each month, we offer a complete farm-to-table experience. We visit local growers, we learn about nutrition, and wrap things up with wonderful meals prepared by our guest chefs. It's a lot of fun. I hope you'll join me for the next Cleveland County Kitchen.
Only 2 years until graduation. Then what? The Advanced Manufacturing Academy is a partnership between Cleveland County Schools and Cleveland Community College. It offers you, rising 11th graders, the chance to learn job skills, earn valuable credentials, and complete your high school studies all at the same time. By completing the Advanced Manufacturing Academy, you'll graduate high school ready to start work at way above minimum wage. Check out the Academy and give yourself a head start on a great future.
Let's get ready to rumble!
I was saddened whenever somebody yelled at lock her up until it was introduced, and I just thought that was out of
That was uncalled.
Was that
She got
you,
tongue.
Wayne?
No, it wasn't me, but I believe that she should be locked
Well, let's.
up.
We're at the train wreck. Wes is right, and so
That's 2 weeks in a row he said I've been right. I'm gonna have to do.
I tell you,
I'm gonna have to
Wes Borland's
reassess
are
a little bit
jihad
here.
to the here.
They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star out of me.
Welcome back to Meet Me at the Movies, and yes, the little theme song does have a Sesame Street connection to it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that is
Henson, yeah.
Gonzo, I think.
Gonzo.
The Gonzo singing that particular theme song. I'm Noel T. Manning II. Over here to my right, Catherine Manning, the Critics' Choice Scholar Extraordinaire. I just gave her an extra little title there. Behind camera 1, that's Mr. Green Jeans. Mr. Green Jeans wearing his blue jeans today. So welcome, Mr. Green Jeans.
He creeped me out a little bit.
Did he?
I like the Moose, but Mr. Green Jeans,
Yeah.
I don't know, something about him just
Bunny
kinda
Rabbit
bothered me a
was
little bit.
another character.
Bunny Rabbit was fine.
Dennis was like remember Dennis?
The
He was-
dentist?
Dennis.
No, I don't remember
Dennis. He was the guy that was like,
Who
he
wants
was,
a dentist on a Saturday morning or on a morning kid show?
no, his name was Dennis, I think, and he
The
was
Menace?
like, he would come in and fix things. He was dressed in overalls and white overalls,
Oh,
and don't remember him. Yeah,
That's vaguely familiar.
maybe that was season 8 of Captain Kangaroo.
Maybe that's when they adopted the orphan Dennis, and
Maybe
that's
so.
always do that in the end run of a series.
Yeah,
bring
maybe
a
so.
cousin,
Maybe so. That's exactly right.
yeah.
Well, this is Meet Me at the Movies back in Mission Control. Is Miranda still back there being quiet? Yep, she's being quiet along
That's a
with
miracle. You
Tim
have no
Foster.
idea.
It's a miracle. Miracle ear. It's a miracle.
Tim's been using a lot of hand gestures this week to make up for it.
Yes, he has. Well, we're talking movies. We've talked about Chappaquiddick. We've talked about a movie to stay away from called The Titan. I want to talk about another film. Christian Jessup, if he had been here, he would have shared this review for the movie called Rampage with Dwayne Johnson. And here is his text. He sent this to me. He said, "This is an action sci-fi flick."
Sci-fi?
I'll get it out. An action sci-fi flick that is too serious to be a fun B-movie, but is too poorly made to be a serious action film. With the exception of Dwayne Johnson, acting was very poor and it was amateur. The third act also drags on way too long and it feels repetitive. The trailers gave away the entire story. D+ for
Hate it when that
Rampage.
happens with trailers.
D+.
And it's so common.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If I'm going to pay to see a movie, give me something a little more than the trailer.
Yeah.
So if you are looking for a better Dwayne Johnson movie, even though I still want to go see this,
I know.
is there
Me too.
something about disaster films? We've talked about this.
Monsters and giant robots and stuff
still-
like that. Yeah, I know.
I still want to see it.
I know.
I still want to see it.
We're
So-
still boys at heart.
Yeah, that's true. Rampage still in theaters for another couple weeks, maybe.
Like Christian,
but if you're
apparently.
looking for a better Dwayne Johnson film, at least from audience and critic standards, let's look at this home delivery. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, Catherine. Box office take on this, and it just left the box office. It's still in some theaters.
Oh, wow.
But it just left the box office widely just a few weeks ago. $954 million worldwide.
Wow.
$90 million budget. Not too shabby for this film. Let's get your take on this. You saw this in theaters, and you've got a DVD that's got some Blu-rays with some extras as well. So let's get your thoughts on Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle.
Well, I thought it was a really fun movie. Going into it, I was kind of concerned because it has, I guess, like 3 comedians. And so sometimes those movies work, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's just kind of a string of laughs with no real substance.
Right.
But this movie, to me, had some really good substance. It's
Okay.
a remake, I guess you could call it, of the 1995 Jumanji with Robin Williams.
Yeah.
And I remember really enjoying that movie as a kid. This movie takes it a little bit differently. In the original Jumanji, they basically they have this board game that comes to life. But in this movie, they have a video game and they go into the video game.
Yeah.
So it's 4 high school students. They're very, I mean, they couldn't be more different. And so they go into this game and become avatars of this video game. And it stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Karen Gillan, who you might recognize from Guardians of the Galaxy as Nebula. So it's a very good cast. They have a really good chemistry together. But each character kind of has their strengths and weaknesses in the game. So it's about them figuring out how to win this game in order to get back home.
And how to do it together, and how to go past their individuality and just their individual pulls.
Yes.
Right.
And as they change into their avatars, they're very, completely different from what their
Yeah.
characters are in real life in high school.
And so you enjoyed this movie.
I did.
It was a great adventure. I mean, this is one of those movies that people would go back and see multiple times. This one exceeded expectations, went well beyond what people thought was going to happen with this particular movie. It was released around Christmas time, and months later, still having life, and now the DVD Blu-ray. So what are some extras on the Blu-ray and the DVD?
I didn't get a chance to quite
Okay.
look at those, but I thought it was a very fun film.
Okay.
It was, but it had some heart to it as well. So I think that's important, kind of mixing fun, heart, and laughs.
Cool. And what was your rating? Do you remember?
B.
B. All right, good deal. B for Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, now available for home delivery. And thanks, Catherine. Catherine Manning there with that awesome take. Well, let's talk about this, Mr. Tillman. We've been trying to get to you to talk about Star Trek Discovery for several weeks now. So this is binge-worthy kind of stuff. This is the CBS All Access original series that you can't find on regular TV.
No.
You grew up a fan of Star Trek.
I did, yes. I watched way too much Star Trek.
You
when I
even
was a
created
teenager.
a film called Star Trash
We don't want to talk about that.
years ago that really made this incredible festival run, and people all over kept clamoring for more.
If I were a bigger person, I would drop in a clip of that, but I'm not.
Well, let's talk about your thoughts on Discovery and this kind of new take in the Star Trek universe.
It looks great. I had notes, but I lost them several weeks ago. But it's been so long. It looks great. The characters are compelling, I think. Because it's not on broadcast television, there's the occasional profanity, which is kind of a shock.
Right.
You know, the story I thought was a little muddled in season 1. It went off on a tangent that didn't really intrigue me like maybe it should. And then it went into another parallel universe kind of mode, which should have been more interesting than I thought it was. I haven't given up on it at all.
Okay.
I still have CBS All Access, and I'm
Right.
anxious to see season 2. And I know sometimes it takes a season or so.
Yeah.
Next Generation, I don't think was particularly good till season 3.
Yeah, I'll say that.
So I'm not giving up on it at all. I think it's certainly worth binging.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've watched the entire season, and I think it's got some great characters. The effects are solid.
Yeah.
Some great casting in this particular show as well. I think it's one that I will continue to follow. And in season 2, they actually meet up with the Enterprise.
Yeah, that was the cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger. Sorry, spoiler alert there, but that's not giving much away
no.
about the story. That's just kind of how they're really launching season 2. So I'm interested in where it's headed. I think you have this kind of anti-hero that we're pulling for that has made some choices, not all of them great,
Right.
but interesting to watch. So and some strong female leads, which
Absolutely.
which
yeah.
has always really happened in Star Trek. So there you go. Well, we don't have time to do a whole lot more, Catherine. We're going to have to wait and talk about Reese a little bit later.
Oh, no.
And also next week, I'd like to talk about Lost in Space, which is the Netflix series. That is out, so we're hoping to talk about that and also talk about Lost in Space from previous years, including the movie they tried to launch and a reboot of the TV series that failed with a big-name director. Hope to talk about all that next week as well. Do want to let you know, if you're looking for just a fun film, reviews from the vault, just quickly, I checked out Date Night again with Tina Fey, Steve Carell. Had not seen it in a while, and I was talking about the movie Game Night several weeks ago, and I was just reminded of Date Night. Thank you and I were talking about
Right,
that.
right.
And I said, I need to watch that again, and I found it in a $4 bin at Walmart, and so I'm going to buy it. So Beth and I watched it. It's still fun. Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Mark Wahlberg, James Franco, Mia Kunis, Ray Liotta, great cast in this. Comedy about mistaken identity, bad choices, and a really unique car chase. Fun movie. Sean Levy wrote and directed this, and it still holds up. Still funny. I still find myself laughing, even at the things I knew were going to come. So I would recommend reviewing and rewatching Date Night once again. Well, I'm Noel T. Manning II. That's Catherine Manning. That is Greg Tillman. Back behind the camera, we do appreciate, back in Mission Control, we do appreciate, there you go, Tim Foster and Miranda. We thank you guys very much. We'll leave you with a movie quote, as we always like to do. This does come from Lost in Space, from Will Robinson. The impossible happens all the time. You just have to believe that it can. Like that quote. That's something to write home to your mom about. Till next time, I'm Noel T. Manning II. And that is a wrap.
Danger, Will Robinson.